I've been testing the AI-powered search for a while. And of course, I give a lot of feedback to Evernote, but I have some questions that you guys might also have. And the first one is, what inspired Evernote to invest time, create the AI-powered
Evernote is
search?
great at helping you store your information, capture your information, your thoughts, your documents, and store them. And it's also good at resurfacing them when you need them. Like, let's say I'm working on a note, I want to bring it back to keep working on it, or I want to bring it back to read it. But it wasn't super great at doing what humans do. Like, if I ask you a question, I expect you to give me a direct answer, a pretty short answer. I don't expect you to like give me a whole. I don't expect you to.
You expect a human answer, right?
Yes, like because what happens in software is that apps give you the whole content, the whole note, and then you yourself have to do the work of going and scanning the whole note and trying to understand the answer to your question. Whereas here, it's just like more human, more natural. You just ask a question and you expect an answer, and I really
Yeah,
like that
like I
concept.
told you in other occasion, I feel like I'm talking to myself now.
Yeah, in some sense, it's true. Like it's something you used to remember or you used to know, and now for some reason you need to either confirm that you still remember correctly or something that you forgot about because maybe you didn't think about
Yes.
it for a few months, and now you go back. And just like when we had this idea, when we looked at this idea, we just said we like this. Let's see what people think about it. Let's not just be okay. We should build this because we like it. So we just sat down and spoke to a lot of people, including yourself, and we just tried to show early designs. We tried to also like just think about how it could work, and this helped us a lot, especially on how it evolved, because in the beginning it wasn't as powerful as it is now that we released it.
As you noticed, there's no video this time. That's on me. I'm sorry, I made a mistake when I was setting the recording, but at least we have the audio, which is the most important part. Anyway, those of you who have already watched my other video know how the AI-powered search works under the hood, but there's an additional detail. So let's listen to Federico's explanation, and I'll get back to you to talk about it.
AI-powered search actually contains two micro features. One is what we call a direct question, or like it gives you a direct answer, and the other is a filter request. What happens is different in these two cases. In the first case, if a user asks a question, it just tries to identify the notes that contain the answer to that question, and then only then the nodes that contain this information are sent to an external AI model that is in charge of basically reading or understanding the content and generate an answer based on the content that you received. And this is important for privacy. The other approach, like the other micro feature, is that in case it understands that what the customer wants is not an answer to a direct question, but rather to see different nodes that have some characteristics. It just allows you to translate your query into a filter or a set of filters. So it's easier to explain with an example. You can do both things. You can ask it, please show me how many cups of flour do I need for my cupcake recipe.
Okay.
And it's going to find the node that contains this information. It's going to scan it, and it is going to understand which part contains the answer to your exact question, and just
Give the answer.
elaborate and generate
Okay.
an answer. Um, an example for the filter request instead is something like, show me all my notes that contained uncompleted tasks that I created in January 2023,
Okay.
for instance. This is something that you can already do with Evernote, but it requires quite a few clicks because you need to go into note list, you need to click on the filter icon, you need to say like notes created between date X and date Y, and then you need to also check the filter for uncompleted tasks. Now, what it does in this case instead is it just sends the question, the query to an external AI model, so it doesn't send notes, and it receives back a query that would also work in standard.
Oh.
And so it just applies that translate. Basically, it's a translation layer.
So when we ask a more elaborated question, Evernote sends the notes to the model, and when we ask something that is in the filter, it will just send the query, and the filter, and the AI will send back what we would have typed if we were using the filter.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So if I ask filtered questions, it's not going to send notes to the AI, to the model.
Yes, and this is what I was referring to earlier when I said that by sitting down and talking to customers, we understood what was really useful to them, because it was clear immediately that what they wanted was not just the direct question tool, but also the filtering request. At the same time, they didn't want to, in a sense, recognize that these are two separate things, because
Okay.
you say, like, if I say that I have an AI powered search for you, you just want to be able to ask it stuff that you need in questions. And so this is why we decided to build them both inside the same experience, so that you don't need to care if you want a filter, if you want an answer to your question. You just ask, and if it works, it just gives you the
I
answer.
agree with you. But it's nice for people, more geeky people like me, to know how how it works. But I completely agree.
Of course.
A normal person would never have to understand this. And one power, I see a lot of power in this concept of the filter one, because I it's it feels like it's not hard because we are involved with this all the time. But for non-tech inclined people, it's really hard to understand the filter. Like you said, you have to select a PDF, you have to do this and that and that and that. And when you get to the end, did I do this all right? So being able to ask, I think that's another game changer here, because the person will just type there and will get the answer, that even if it's just simple query like, show me all the PDFs I created last month. That's really hard for some people. But if I can type that, wow, I think this is amazing. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, we just wanted to lower the amount of work that people need to do to find the notes that they're looking for, basically. Just as if you were asking to a friend, you just
Yeah,
ask them.
I already see Evernote as my friend, so now. Okay. So if you're not comfortable with the idea of sending your notes to an AI model, I encourage you to at least try to filter your notes using the AI-powered search, because in this case, there is no note being sent to the model. All that is sent is the question, and the model will send back the coding, the combination of words and things that we have to type into the filter, and that's it. Nothing else is being sent. Okay, talking about sending notes, what kind of content does the AI understand in our notes?
Basically the same things that you can already search for with the standard search. As you know, we are able to scan the content of PDFs, and so when you search in the standard search, also if your query is contained inside a PDF or in an image, for instance, that's also included in the search results.
Okay.
AI-powered search is also capable of finding the answer that you need inside a document, inside a PDF, inside an image, inside a Microsoft Word document, for instance.
Images too. If I take a picture of a book, a cover of a book, it will be able to find
Yes.
it. Wow, that's amazing. And what about audio? Something like, does it read does it read audio? does it understand?
Not yet, but I do have this on my
Okay.
list.
I like the yet part of that answer.
Yeah, I don't have a date, but this is for sure something that I would like to
I
work
see.
on in the next month, because you're not the first one and the only one who asked this. So
this is something I expected Evernote to have by now, audio transcription, even before AI, but it never got there. But maybe now it's time for it's a good time for that. And talking about audio, will we ever be able to ask Evernote like an assistant?
there are a lot of different ideas that people gave us and that we had on how to interact with search. For now, we decided to stay with the first one, and which is also the easiest one to understand, which is just searching for an answer, so like asking a question, like you would do on ChatGPT, or like you would do on a message to a friend by chatting. At the same time, it's true that you could also ask the same questions with your voice. No, on the same level, you could also do something else, which is you could just give commands to Evernote to, I don't know, create a new task or create a new note.
Wow, I didn't think about that.
There are already people that are telling us that they would like, when you're typing in AI-powered search, they would like to be able to, they would like to have the possibility to like create a new note, or well, create a new note. Maybe it's not a good example because it's just one button, so it's pretty easy to do. You don't need to write a whole text. But like, for instance, creating a task with the inline information, like create a recurring task happening every Monday at hour X, that's called walk the dog,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
This is a suggestion I gave to one of your team members. Is yeah, if we could convert one of those answers to a note, like we do in Scratchpad, just convert to note. And even better, imagine if I have all the links there from the note of the notes that information was taken from. That would be amazing, because now I have a concise answer, and I even have the links there. So
Yeah,
I think that would be great.
yeah. Our backlog of things to do is growing longer and longer, so we need to prioritize aggressively.
Let's hope those ideas and others materialize sooner than later. Well, I've already talked about privacy in the other video, but I think it's a good idea to listen to Federico explaining it. And talking about privacy, you'll find a NordVPN affiliate link in the description below. That's the VPN I use. And if you're looking for a VPN and you subscribe using the link in the description below, you'll help the channel and you'll also get a discount. Okay, let's listen to Federico.
The great thing that we learned while working on the privacy aspect of this feature is that we also thought it was like a tough topic. Like, now we need to decide what data we send. Some people are not going to be comfortable with it. Some people will be. There are two things that made our job much easier. That look banal, but actually helped us a lot. The first one is we just asked. Like we just sat down with people and we asked, what are you comfortable with? And the answers we got were pretty reasonable overall. Like, I don't want all my data to get sent to an AI model and to train an AI model, but I'm definitely willing to like send the content of 2, 3, 4 notes that might contain the answer if I could just in 2 seconds receive a precise and concise answer based on my question. So that already helped us kind of understand the scope of the feature. Of how the privacy aspect of the feature works. Inside the product, we just ask again, like, using this feature, you're gonna send your data to an AI model, a third-party AI model. Are you comfortable with it? Because if you're not, there's no issue. Like, you can just click X and you can just go back to the standard search, and that's not an issue either. Now, going back to your question, the way it works is that when you ask a question, like a direct question query, the nodes that are selected locally, like the app itself, without contacting any AI model, select the nodes that are most likely to contain your answer. Only those get sent to the external AI model, depending on how long the content is, etc. So they can be 1 node, 3 nodes, 5 nodes, depends. Now, what happens is that these nodes are sent to this third-party AI model. The third party deletes the content after automatically. This is like the standard policy. Deletes the content automatically after 30 days.
Okay.
So we don't have to do anything. Like, we don't need to ask them to do it. It's just like the standard procedure. So notes are not retained or stored for longer anywhere on their
Okay.
systems.
And what about training? Is it used for training?
It's not used for training,
Okay.
neither by us, Evernote, nor Burning Spoons, and also not used for training by the third parties.
One of my patrons came up with this very interesting suggestion, and I told Federico about it. He suggested a flag, some way to select notes and entire notebooks that will never be sent to the model. And I agree with that, because although I'm pretty comfortable with the AI, I'm using it all the time, and I trust what Evernote is doing with the notes, there are some situations where the notes are not really ours. For example, when I'm with a client, I'm taking notes about that client. And even though I don't have any document from the client, I have notes about their business. And I don't feel comfortable because, in a sense, it feels like those notes are not mine. So I moved them to another account to be comfortable using the AI-powered search. But there might be other situations in which you would like to flag notes. For example, a journal. If you journal in your Evernote, I think that would be another situation. Anyway, let's listen to what Federico has to say about this. But before that, if you like what I do here, if it's helpful, I'd appreciate if you consider becoming a Patreon. You'll help the channel, and we can have all these discussions there. Okay, let's listen to Federico.
It makes totally sense. I think we wanted to get exactly this feedback when we first built the feature. So now we are gathering all sorts of indications like this, and we will try to implement those that we think are most reasonable. In this case, I think it's a good suggestion. I think you should be able to say, like, the content of this notebook, I don't want to send it anywhere, or also like at the note level. At the same time, I wanted to like reassure people that this is exactly what happens when you use like ChatGPT in private mode. You know, when you use ChatGPT in private mode, no data is stored on their side, and the model is not trained on your data. So it's pretty safe to share information with that. So I encourage people to try it. Of course, if they have strong opinion not to, they're free not to.
Yeah, I think this is more a person from another generation. I don't feel like I'm okay sharing other people information. I understand all the privacy, but I think it's not on me to choose to share that person or that
That's right.
that company information. But I understand. I've been trying it. I have a separate account now for my clients, so I can try this and have fun with it, and it's really amazing. Another suggestion I have for I know this is for the future, and there are all sorts of implications here, but talking about that idea of a friend talking to a friend, it would be nice if Evernote could have some context. For example, who is my son? Who is my wife? Is this feasible? Does it has to involve Evernote, the AI? How because there's privacy involved there, right?
There is. This is the first time I think about it, so I might be wrong. But one way you could do this is by actually allowing training. That many people might feel comfortable with it. I probably would too. So you could just say, okay, like this is me. Or another thing that GPT does is, I think you can provide context that is basically shared in all your requests to ChatGPT.
Okay, so maybe Evernote already has that information and it sends to GPT.
No, I mean that you could have a box somewhere where you specify some context that you always share with every search that you do. Like for instance, basically every search is a prompt to an AI model, and you could append to this search some context about, like, remember that my child's name is Julia, and my friend's name is John, and so
I see.
that
I see. Yeah, maybe we could fill that somewhere in Evernote and send it to GPT. But yeah, I just had this idea because you talked about having a friendly conversation. That would be, I don't think anything more friendly than that.
I have a question for you, if I can.
Sure.
What was your experience so far with AI search? Like, except for like you told me that it's good, and I appreciate that. But I'm curious about what are you using it
Okay,
for?
let me give you some context there, because I was already experimenting the feature you guys showed me, and I was already really amazed by it and very impressed by it. But I knew the moment I had it on my Evernote, my mind would blow, and because those are my notes. It's one thing to ask questions that you don't have the answers to, and it's another thing that you ask for questions that you have the answer to. And I started slow. I started trying to ask questions about things that I knew that I have PDFs and things like that, and the answers blew my mind. Not only because Evernote could find those notes, but because of the summary. That's amazing, because I was talking again to other of your team members, and I see two big things happening here. One we talked about is an assistant that I can help my clients and people that are not tech inclined and can find information fast. But the other thing I see is learning, because studying is hard, learning is even harder. You have to read a lot of things, and you have to find the precise information, connect the dots. And once you do that, you forget, because if you don't go back to that, you forget about it. But it's there somewhere. You connected that dot and you know the answer. And now we can ask Evernote based on what we studied and what we learned. And when we see that concise answer, oh yeah, of course, this is what I was looking for. So that felt like magic to me, because like I said before, it's like I'm talking to myself, because I can see the answer there. I tried all the simple search things, and that's already amazing, but that didn't kind of impress me, because I know that I can do that. I know how to do it, but I found it amazing for my clients. But this answers, the concise answers, the summary, and it answers, of course, sometimes it goes crazy, but that's AI. But most of the time, it's making me, yeah, I'm mind blown. It's amazing. I'm really impressed with what you guys did there. And there's a third thing. I think that organization, the way we see it today, organizing documents and things like that, is gone. And maybe in a couple of years, decades, I don't know. We humans, we love to put things in little boxes and categorize everything, and I think we'll keep doing that for a long time. But there's no need to do that anymore as this gets better and better. So I feel like someday we'll be able to talk to Evernote like the crew of the Enterprise, the starship. They talk to the computer, tell me about the whales in the 19th century. And so we'll get that. So I'm really impressed with what you guys did, and I think there's so much nice things that can come from that in the near future. I'm really shocked that I lived to see this. I didn't think I would see something like this. So nice.
It is pretty cool. I agree. And recently, I also like not downgraded, but decreased the number of the complexity of my organization system inside Evernote. I used to have like a few tens of notebooks divided into different topics for family, work, etc. And now I think I have 6 or 7 that are the most important ones, and then I have like a couple of that are secondary. But like, basically, I have 2 or 3 divided into different topics for work, and then one for personal stuff and one for family stuff. And now I can just like ask questions. In the beginning, I was also like curious, and I started slow, and I tried to ask AI powered search question more like to play with it rather than to actually extract the information and to see if it. So I was trying to see if it worked, basically, and if it worked. And so I knew something that was maybe a little tricky. I asked it a question concerning that, and I verified if it was true. And then slowly I started trusting more and more.
Unfortunately, this is where the recording stopped. Honestly, I'm pretty upset because this was such a great conversation, but I'm trying to do what I always try to do, make something of it. So I decided to start a podcast for Patreons. And what I'll do is use the audio of conversations like this, because I always record more than I use on the videos, because otherwise the videos will be too long. So the podcast will have the full audio of the interview, of the conversation. Yes, even today's conversation was too long and I cut parts of it. The Patreon audio has the full conversation, and at the end, at this point where the recording stopped, I talked about what Federico told me. So if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel and have access to extra content, please consider joining my Patreon. Thanks for watching. See you soon.